It's the end of a 5,000 year period. 5,000 years ago is when most people, I'm sorry, I've skipped over the hunter-gatherers pretty soon, but
I didn't mean to. It was an invitation, Sean.
but hopefully you'll see why.
It will, I know it, I've heard it.
So 5,000 years, the historical period. It's the end of history. Now, that may sound absurd to many people. What do you mean the end of history? Well, if by history we mean the way we have always thought of history, which is, as we know from the first records of Sumer, let's say, first continuous records in Sumer, Mesopotamia, history is basically the narratives about the conquest of peoples and states by usually, well, states almost always led by men and certain powerful men, right? So if history is the story of warring states bent on universal domination, it's arguable that that story has come to an end. I mean, it needs to, yes, there's still wars happening, there's still empires and so on, but that script, at least, the script that has been guiding this story is no longer sustainable. We recognize that. I'll have to wait, sorry. We can come back to that.
I just want to, is this 5,000K or 5,000?
Oh, 5,000 years.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, 5K, you're right, thank you so much. 5K, 5,000 years, thank you so much. Yeah, please, no, don't, please, I'm sorry, please don't hesitate to interrupt me if you see that if you think I'm making an error or if you want a clarification like that. All right, so 5,000 years, we'll come back to this later. I'll just put this one down. I won't dwell on it. It's the end of the Holocene, right? The stable global climate that has persisted since the end of the last ice age, and within which all of civilization as we know it arose. Shortly after the end of the last ice age, we went from hunting, gathering to agriculture. So we're at agriculture now. But that stable global climate, as you know, is threatened right now. And with it, of course, agriculture itself. It only takes a rise of, an average rise of 2 degrees centigrade to start interfering with pollination. Actually, it only takes 104 degrees to stop photosynthesis. Right? So you can imagine what could happen if some of the grain-growing regions get hit with persistent heat waves. Right? It could be anyway. It's the end of the Holocene. Okay? It's also, as you probably know, the end of the age of Pisces, which is also the end of the Christian Ion. We don't really have time to get into this, but this is Jung's interpretation. If you're interested, Jung's book, Ion, where he discusses the significance of the passing of, from the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius, which coincides synchronistically with the end of a 2,000-year period of the rise of the Western Christian worldview and its imminent relativization or going under into something we don't know what. Right? So it's the end of the Piscean age, end of the Christian Ion. It's the end of the modern period, if by the modern period we think of this self-perception and drive to conquest, to self-defined autonomy guided by the ideals of progress, right, sort of, and limitless growth. If that's what we think of as the modern, that has come to an end. It's the end of a 100-year period of cheap oil, which has powered the last spasm of industrial growth society during the modern period, which has brought us to our current situation. Okay? So all of these are are signals of ends, and they're all coinciding in the now. So there are multiple eschatons that we are participating in and, in a sense, bringing about. So, yes, we are in the middle of a story, but we're also at the end of a story. We're at the end of many stories. We're on the threshold, about to cross between stories. Okay? Now, what is this story? Well, of course, the eschaton is associated in the Christian imagination with apocalypse. Now, literally, apocalypse means a lifting of the veil. It comes to mean the end of the world, right? But literally, it means a lifting of the veil. So where things that are clouded become clear. So things become clear. The truth is revealed. Hence the English translation of the last book of the Bible, Apocalypse, as Revelation. So things are revealed. But it does come to mean the end of the world. The Christians weren't early Christians weren't the only ones to have such a notion. At least now I'm speaking of the end of the world, not so much the Revelation. The Buddhists in medieval Japan, thinking particularly originally of, you can still see me good, okay. CIIS, who around 800 of the Common Era was one of the founders of Tendai Buddhism, or Tiantai in Chinese. Tendai Buddhism, a branch of esoteric Buddhism that was founded in Japan about this time. And I won't go more into that. Took up the Buddhist notion of the 3 ages of the Dharma. Okay. So there are several texts that talk about these 3 ages of the Dharma. The first age is when the Buddha was alive and where it was possible for people to not only hear the teachings, but to do the practice correctly and achieve liberation in this life. Right? Then the second age, when the Dharma only is getting clouded. Right? It's still possible to hear the Dharma, but it's not very possible for people to achieve liberation in this lifetime, even with the proper practice. The third age is the age when the teachings are corrupted. Practice is, it's very, very hard to do correct practice, and the world is actually not looking too good. Some of the signs of this third age, which in Japanese is mappo. Some of the signs of mappo are widespread famines and plagues, the spread of false views, the intensification of evil passions, the rejection of the moral law, and an increasingly shortened lifespan. So all of those indicators, which CIIS and others soon after, including the Pure Land form of Buddhism, thought were evident in Japan in the 9th and 10th centuries, many people would recognize in our own times. Okay, it's mappo. Now, the idea of mappo and the 3 ages of the Dharma, of course, is a Buddhist inflection of the older Hindu notion of the yugas, which you find also in other Indo-European traditions, and the Greek notion, let's say, of the 4 ages going from, backwards from gold, silver, bronze, and iron. But the notion of the yugas in India, there are 4 unimaginably wide stretches of time, not as wide as as long as the kalpas, which bring us into the thousands of billions of years. So we think that our cosmological vision is vast in its time scale. Well, the Hindu notion of the kalpas is infinitely more vast than that. But a smaller cycle within that unimaginably vast temporal sweep of the Hindu cosmos are these recurring cycles of yugas. But they're pretty long as well. I mean, and the last one, the so-called Kali, not Kali, sorry, it's not Kali, it's actually just Kali. It's not a long A. It's not the god Kali, it's a different word, Kali. The Kali Yuga, which is the last one that we're in, traditionally is thought to last 432, is that right? 432,000 years?
Yeah, that's right.
No, 422,000, sorry. I have 422,000. I mean, there was a revision in the last century by Yogananda's guru, who said that the ancients had the calculations wrong and so on, and he shortened it. It's an interesting counter theory, but the standard view is I think 422,000 years. And what is interesting is that the Kali Yuga, so 422,000 years it lasts. I mean, the other yugas last much longer. The one before the Kali Yuga, the Dvapara Yuga, 864,000 years. The one before that, the Tret Yuga, 1,296,000 years. And then the Satya Yuga, the one before that even, is 1,728,000. So whatever that is, really long. It's very, very long. Okay. The interesting thing is that if you add up the total number of years of the yugas, you get roughly, no, you don't get roughly, actually, you get exactly, sorry, 4,310,000. Well, I can do this, yeah. 4,310,000, which just happens to be right pretty much in the middle of where physical anthropologists date the emergence of the first hominids. Just interesting. Not Homo sapiens sapiens, which is only 200,000 years ago. And not even Homo sapiens, the first Homo sapiens, which maybe go back about 1 million years. But the first hominids, so when the common ancestors of humans and the other primates, when that first split occurred, and you get the very first hominids, it's about there.
Could you say again, what is the middle of what?
Oh, so you have these 4 ages, which go around in a cycle. They repeat cyclically, right? But if you take one cycle and spread it out in a line, and you have the let me see. Yeah, so I won't do it proportionally, but you have the Satya Yuga, the Tret Yuga, the Dvapara Yuga, and the Kali Yuga. So we're in the Kali Yuga. It's basically gold, silver, bronze, iron. Okay. And they each have different lengths. They actually get longer this way. I've sort of compressed them just for representation value. But if you add up all of the years, you get 4,310,000,
Got that.
which is just about where the physical anthropologists say Homo emerged.